Lesson 03, example number 4, is about multiplying and dividing integers. Don't forget, you can pause or stop the video at any time if it's going too fast for you. When multiplying and dividing integers, you use the same set of rules for both operations. Basically, if you have two numbers with the same sign, the answer will always be positive, and if you have two numbers with different signs, the answer is always going to be negative. For example, a negative 5 times a negative 7 is going to equal a positive 35 because they're both the same sign. Negative 5 times 7 is going to equal a negative 35 because they're different signs. You have one of each. I have two different ways to help you remember these rules for when you're working on your homework or when you come to this kind of question on a quiz or test. One is using a little saying that has to do with good people and bad people and good things and bad things. The good people and good things is for the positives, and the bad people and bad things are for the negatives. If you take a look up here, good things happening to good people is good. Bad things happening to bad people is also good. Good things happening to bad people is bad, and bad things happening to good people is bad. Now, it might not be the nicest saying, but it works. The other way to remember it is to make a multiplication and division of integers tic-tac-toe board. You put the positives down the diagonal and fill in the rest with negatives. If you look at our first example, negative 5 times negative 7, a negative times a negative is positive. Or you could go down, a negative times a negative is positive. For the second example, a negative times a positive is negative, or you could go right here, a negative times a positive is negative. Let's try just a couple more examples. Negative 3 times 2. Negative 3 times 2 is going to be a negative times a positive. That's going to be a negative 6. Negative 3 times negative 5. A negative times a negative is going to equal a positive. And 2 times 4, positive times a positive is obviously a positive. If you're using the saying, bad things happening to good people is bad, bad things happening to bad people is good, and good things happening to good people is good. The last thing we're going to do is look at a series of integers being multiplied together. Negative 7 times 5 times negative 1 times negative 8 times negative 9. Is that answer going to be positive or negative? Now you could just work from left to right and solve the problem as you go through, or since multiplication is commutative, you can rearrange this and multiply all your negative numbers together first. For example, a negative 7 times a negative 1, that's going to give you a positive, and a negative 8 times a negative 9 is also going to give you a positive, and since the only other number there is a positive, you're going to end up with a positive answer. Basically, every two negatives, when you multiply them together, is going to end up becoming positive. Now, if I were to redo this problem and get rid of this very last number, now what's going to happen is this negative times this negative is going to be positive. However, you have one negative left in the problem. So in the end, when you go to multiply by that negative, it's going to make your answer negative. What we can figure out from that is that if you have an even number of negatives, your answer is always going to be positive. If you have an odd number of negatives, your answer is always going to be negative. Don't forget, you can always rewatch the video. You can also watch the personal tutor in the online textbook, or you can read through the lesson in the textbook.